Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're super excited today to be joined by Tsang coming to us from Toronto. And we, just kind of as a reminder for these conversations, we just want to talk more with people in the industry. We started Open House because we ourselves were MSPs and wanted to see this product come to life. And so we want to basically talk with other MSPs like ourselves. And Tsang is an MSP. He has a business that does all sorts of different 3D technologies and different, imaging and capture services for businesses and residential. Anyways, lots of different projects in Toronto and beyond. And anyways, we're just really grateful for you to join us today, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's get started, Sam, just by kind of giving us a brief introduction of yourself and Media District, which is Sam's business.
All right. So I'm a new import to Toronto. I've been here for 12 years. Used to be based out in Florida, and been doing Matterpod actually for not very long. I'll say we started a concept around in the beginning of the pandemic. I myself am a commercial photographer, and because of the pandemic, production was halted. So in the middle of it, we're like, okay, we got to continue to work, and therefore we pivoted our business model and then branched into real estate, mainly because, that was the only thing possible going on, at least up here in Ontario, Canada. So yeah, it's been a learning experience, and we're enjoying the ride so far.
Awesome. So that's kind of an interesting take. So before you came into anything 3D related, you were just doing commercial building photography. Is that right?
Commercial photography, actually more into like e-com, fashion. So nothing related to architecture whatsoever.
Interesting. Very cool. That's awesome. So did you do like product photos and different things like that?
E-com, so mainly work with models. Actually, it's quite a big production. We have, all the professional on sets, makeup artists, wardrobe stylists, and it's every time there's like 10, 15 people on set. Quite a contrast from what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So are you still doing some of that? Are you doing some of that still? And, Matterport and different architectural visualization, or is it mostly all Matterport based now?
So because of my background in commercial photography, there's quite a few clients or clients of a client are in this retail world. So it was a natural response to extend the service to this type of target audience. And so my focus has been on retail or art galleries, and or even tourist attraction.
That's awesome. Way cool. So when you got started, how did you first hear about Matterport? How did you even have the idea to switch over and make that jump during the depths of the pandemic?
Sure. So when the pandemic hit, my wife and I were actually on a cruise ship. Yeah. So we were, the end of the cruise, we were in Florida, and then we got on a plane, flew back to Toronto. That very Friday, the province or states, if you will, announced a complete lockdown. So no business, no photo shoot, no one knew what we're supposed to do. So, I was just twiddling my thumb. Okay, what am I supposed to do now? I have a photography studio downtown that I can't open door to allow anyone to work with me. And so I was just bored. And the next thing I saw this ad pop up. I believe it was on Facebook. And it was about virtual Cadillac experience. So out of curiosity, I pressed in it, and it actually take me to this link to make an appointment to do a virtual walkthrough and experience a brand new lineup of Cadillac vehicles. So I made the appointment, and then it actually dropped me into this Matterpod virtual showroom with all the complete lineup. And then when I talk to a sales associate, it connect me live to a salesperson. And the whole experience was so impressive. The person answered all my questions. And at the end of it, she asked, hey, would you like to test drive a Cadillac? And I was like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. What are you talking about? She was like, oh, don't worry. We'll have it drop right in front of your house. Everything will be contactless. So it was a good time. I did not end up buying a Cadillac, but it was such a good experience. It piqued my interest, looking more in depth into this Matterport thing. And that's how I got started.
That is a way cool story. And it's pretty awesome. The pandemic, I think it shows we were all pretty bored and not sure what to do that basically the pandemic hits and you're like, I'm going to do some virtual car shopping,
That's right.
But anyways, that's a way cool story. And hopefully, that Cadillac comes in the coming months.
Soon, I hope.
How did you get into photography in general? How was this always kind of an interest of yours, or?
No, not at all. It was totally by accident. So as I previously mentioned, I'm a new import to Canada. So back in Florida, I used to be an exercise physiologist. So I used to work in the medical field. I went to university to, do all my medical stuff. And then the company, shifted my role into more business side of things. So I went ahead and studied my MBA in e-business. And then when I moved to Canada, there was a process that I need to wait for the visa to come through. So while during that waiting period where I cannot work locally in the medical profession, my wife gave me a camera and she's like, hey, occupy yourself, keep yourself busy, go learn something. So that's what I did. So I picked up the camera. She taught me all the basics. And that's how I got started. And then through chance on Facebook, I met some of the commercial photographers here in Toronto. And they took me under their wings. I met the right person at the right time. And very soon I was introduced to the industry here locally. And I left the medical field and fully into this art field that it's very scary, but quite rewarding, if you will.
That's awesome. That's way awesome. I can kind of relate, actually. We moved to Texas because I was going to law school for Baylor Law School, and kind of a similar story, but when the pandemic hit, I had a friend that basically was into Matterport and 3D photography, and I just decided, I'm going to take a break from law school. I didn't want to pay for remote learning at the time, and just kind of got into it and started doing some scanning here in Texas. And one thing led to another, and decided to drop out of law school and all in on photography business. And we eventually had the idea for Open House. So, anyways, I can relate to leaving a very professional track and being an entrepreneur and doing your own thing in the photography world. So, anyways, thanks for sharing that. Right now, when it comes to your media district business, what would you say is kind of the makeup of your clientele? Is it mostly residential now, mostly commercial? Who are you doing 3D scanning or photography services for right now?
Yeah, so mostly commercial. The reason is, in my opinion, just a very short amount of time that I've been in this business, I realized that, the residential side is quite saturated, at least here in Toronto, a big city. So I was like, I should stick with the clientele that I'm very familiar with, which is the commercial side, the retails, the art galleries, and tourist attraction, because I used to do commercial photography for these clients. So I should, keep doing what I do best and stick to the niche that I'm good at. So so we end up pretty much not touching the residential stuff at all, and just purely focusing on the commercial side of things.
Cool. And of those commercial businesses, what's the makeup of those mostly? Is it you mentioned a few different categories, retail or tourist attractions, etc. Is there one category that really stands out, or that you do a lot of work for, or is it pretty evenly distributed?
It's quite even at this point.
That's interesting. That's awesome. I think you're kind of spot on with that, where what we've seen is residential is really, really saturated, and the prices of those projects also are very competitive. There's not a ton of margin for an MSP out there, but I think what we're going to see, especially with different, overlays and different Matterport technology partners, I think we'll start to see more and more commercial adoption. What's your opinion about that?
I think so. I think that right now, Matterport, for a beginner to get into this whole virtual experience type of thing, I think a lot of times they make the mistake about, okay, when you have the machine or tool, if you will, then you have a business. It's not like that. If you have been in business long enough, you know that you do need to have a business plan in place first. You need to do all your calculation. You need to do a SWOT analysis, if you will, to know who are your competitors. Is the market saturated? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Do you actually have a niche to break into this? Carve a little piece of pie, if you will. Because if you don't do any of that before you purchase that equipment, I can tell you that you'll be in for a wild ride. You really need to have a business plan before you purchase anything. I mean, that's why a lot of new businesses go out of business, because you essentially cannot compete for free. Okay? There are people who are out there doing the same type of work, but they are significantly undercharging. They do not know what they're worth. They just thought that, okay, if I make it up through volume, or if I make it up through bulk, or if I could do it cheaper, I'll grab that client. But as you can see during this pandemic, a lot of businesses just went out, they disappeared, vanished without a trace, because they don't have that business plan. And when unexpected things happen, business get wiped out, and they are never to be heard of again. So yeah, gotta have a business plan.
I think that's super good advice for sure, because when you're starting a business, there's so much fun and exciting stuff in the beginning, like buying equipment, buying a domain name, making your website, designing a logo. There's all this stuff that is so kind of fun and exhilarating when you're getting started. Yep. And it's oh, I actually need to find customers now. And that's where what you're talking about, having that business plan, and I guess even just also validating that there's a customer segment that you can actually service from the beginning. Yep. Is so important. So it's pretty counterintuitive. I think starting open house or other things that we've done in the past, the first thing you think is okay, to start a business I need to create my LLC or whatever. You think that's step one, but actually step one is making a business plan and validating that there's people that you can give a crap about what you think you can do.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. So on the topic of purchasing equipment, I kind of want to wrap up with this. We're going to have to obviously have another conversation, Sam, because
all right,
doing that. So we'll come back for an episode 2 soon. But on the topic of purchasing equipment, I have to ask, when it comes to the Matterport Pro 3, I think a lot of people are excited. A lot of people aren't so excited and don't see how it will benefit their specific business. I'd love, especially with your background and what you're doing in the commercial space, I'd love your reaction, or what's your opinion on the Matterport Pro 3, and are you guys looking at buying one, etc.?
So we were one of the first people who received our unit.
Awesome.
I ordered mine on launch day. I believe it took me 4 hours to make that decision. Mainly because we've done commercial projects that are big enough, and through just one job or even half a job or even a quarter of a job, the price of that equipment pays for itself. Yeah. So it's a no-brainer for us. And I think a lot of people make that mistake of comparing Pro 2 with the Pro 3, because in my opinion, the Pro 2 and the Pro 3 are first of all, it's two different technology, and they are for different type of uses. So for us, on the commercial side of things, where we very often would do, outdoor scanning, Pro 3 is a no-brainer. We gotta have it, because otherwise we would have, we've been renting the Leica BLK 360, and after using the Pro 3, it's a confirmation that we made the best decision.
Yeah. Man, I agree with what you're saying. We've used it on some projects. We ordered it early, and basically the same day it was announced, like you did. And just the first project we used it on, we actually did it for a pretty big home, and I think we were just so pumped about how quick it was and how fast we could scan. It just cut down our time that we needed to be in the home and scanning. And then we went outside and just scanned this. We went outside and just scanned this big backyard with no shade, nothing, super sunny day, and it was just magical. It's like, holy cow. I don't know if you've experienced this, I'm sure you have, but trying to scan an outdoor space, even just a patio that was shaded with the Pro 2, you're just scanning over and over, like, alignment error. Oh, you have to, not enough data. And the fact that you could just walk outside and scan an outdoor space was a huge unlock for us, for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
So awesome. Are you using the Pro 3 now as kind of the primary camera for all your projects now? Or are you still using the Pro 2?
I still use the Pro 2. It depends on the project. If it warrants the use of a Pro 3, we definitely would use it. But I strongly believe the Pro 2 has its place. And for, I'll say, 80% of the projects out there, the Pro 2 can just do a fantastic job. Only if the environment, a LiDAR technology would work better, then, by all means use Pro 3. Yeah. When we use open house with our Ripley's Aquarium of Canada's project, the Pro 2, at that time, Pro 2 was the main camera. Pro 3 wasn't even announced yet. And it was such a challenge to get that place scanned, because, in the building itself, there's so many glass surfaces, reflective surfaces. It's an aquarium. Everything is glass and mirrors. And then we also needed to capture the art installation outside of the aquarium. And we had to time it just right so that there's significantly lower infrared bouncing around outside. And it's a tourist place where there's thousands of people outdoor, and it was such a challenge to do that. But I can imagine with the Pro 3, it would be much faster. Production time will be much shorter. We won't have to get like special permit to scan that area for a longer period.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've experienced the same thing. We're still using Pro 2 on some spaces as well. I'd say, yeah, the majority don't necessarily need the upgrade to the Pro 3, but the ones that do, it makes a huge difference. That's just a game changer. So, anyways, Sam, we gotta cut short now.
All right.
We appreciate the time. People can find you at mediadistrict.ca. Is there anywhere else that should find y'all?
That's it. Our Instagram, Media District CA.
Awesome. Great. Well, we'll definitely be having more conversations in the future because there's lots to talk about. And like I said, we just want to have more discussion in the industry with people like yourself. So thank you for taking the time today.
Awesome. Thank you.